Hello, welcome to this episode of Hammering Down. I'm your host, Keller Hodges, and I'm hoping you're having a great day. Got a bit of a packed show for you guys today. I want to talk a little bit about the W League and the League Two squads for just a minute. Then we're going to hop into the Detroit City match, and then we're going to hit a lot of I want to do the interview, the post-match interview with Mark Briggs, and then we'll talk a little bit about Miami. Just try to get things to flow a little bit better, maybe some ideas that go through as we go through the match. So first things first, I want to start with the W League squad, where Legion WFC fall 1-0 to One Knox, and really it was just one moment. There was a free kick about, I'd say 40 yards out of the box. Ball gets floated in, and it's just redirected by Carly Freeman for One Knox, and that's really all it was. That's kind of the entire match. Really, the people to pay attention to, Ella Smith and Avery Berryman, played really well in this match, specifically going down that right-hand side. But there's a lot to be desired in the middle of the pitch. Tatum Allemeyer is someone who's been very good for the Three Sparks. So I don't really know. Don't know if that was just a today thing. I say today. It happened yesterday or 2 days ago. But either way, I don't know if that was just it just didn't work against this One Knox squad, or just bad day, or maybe someone like Ali Howard wasn't dropping deep enough to help make play run through the middle of the pitch. But everything was going through the wings, and it felt like One Knox was fairly ready for that. However, at the very end of the match, there was a mad scramble across the box where it felt like it was a certain goal, and it looked like it was cleared off the line, but then the ref gave a goal kick. So apparently they skied one from within 6 yards. I just don't really believe that. If it was, I think it was cleared off the line, and maybe it deflected off of a WFC player out of bounds, but no way they just skied it like that. Just no way. So there was that. For the men's squad, it was a very impressive showing where Van Horn gets the goal because of some deflections that kind of fall his way. Lucas Rizzo and Dominic Hart were playing very well in this match. Alan Melendez showed out very well. I was very impressed. But my man of the match was Gage Estep. I think is how you pronounce it. Estep. If someone let me know. But he was very good, the number 8. Just absolute superstar on the pitch. He's someone that again, just super impressed with how they played. The first half, it could have easily been 3-4-0. Legion had their chances, but Columbus goalkeepers came up big several times. They made big saves, a couple shots outside the box, forced a diving save, took a save to the face like the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Sterling, like straight up just took one to the face. Better finishing. This match is 3-4-0 in the first half. Instead, it ends up being 1-1 because of an absolute wonder goal by Evans DePaul. I mean, just seriously a wonder goal about, I'd say 25 yards, and just curls one into the top right corner. It's unsavable. The only way you save that ball is if you're already standing in that corner. There's not much that keeper could do there, but that's how it happens. Legion WFC fall 1-0, and the men's the League Two, the Hammers, they draw 1-1 from what looks like a straightforward win. As I am trying to pull up the schedule to tell you when the next matches are for the Birmingham WFC. They are going to be taking on Asheville City on the 24th. So that's on Saturday. It says at 4:30. I don't know if that's local or like Central Standard, or if that's local time to Asheville, but we'll see. And then for the men's side, the Hammers are going to be playing on the 28th at Championship Stadium in Montgomery United. So that is going to be the upcoming match, is going to be on the 28th. So there you have it. There's your League Two and W League updates. So let's get into this Detroit City match. And before we go to the post match interview from Mark Briggs, we're not going to be talking about the Fanwell Kavita one, but some notes from what Fanwell said was, it felt like coming out of the locker rooms, they were slow. That's a phrase that was used a lot. And I eventually asked Mark Briggs about the term slow, if it's a mental, if it's a physical, or whatever. And we'll get into that because the answer was quite interesting. But Fanwell mentioned slow. They were slow. And that's how you can describe the Alex Villanueva goal. Kind of ball gets flicked over Jake Roof's head, who I thought largely had a good game, but definitely his worst of the season, which sucks. But he did seem poor for his standards on the night, possibly leaving the door open for Steven, not Spencer, Steven Turnbull. So we'll see if that's a change that Briggs makes along the way. We also saw Luke Lasso make his debut. Lasso looked very, very good. Definitely seemed like a missing piece for the Three Sparks. I was very impressed with Lasso playing in as that 6. But we also saw that the game picked up when Kobe Hernandez Foster came in. So that could be something to pay attention to as well. Maybe this is a Kobe Hernandez Foster and Lasso kind of double pivot with the two. But somebody has to be out, and that's either going to be Pastor or Enzo, or you drop somebody. It's a whole thing that you have to figure out, and I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but that will be absolutely fascinating. Thiago Suarez had a fantastic match as well. We'll talk about him in just a little bit, but he had a great match himself. So that's kind of how that all rolled. And we will go ahead and just kind of get into this interview portion. If I can just switch over the screen. Oh, let's do this one. Here we go. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I was pleased with them today. I thought second half we were solid defensively. I thought we were connected. We didn't really give up too many opportunities. But Detroit put us in a couple of uncomfortable positions, but it was good to see that we handled those positions. I just felt we were a little bit too anxious in possession. Sometimes we got the ball forward and we gave it straight back to them. So it never allowed us to gain any momentum. So at halftime, we just kind of asked them to, one, up the energy level a little bit, but two, have a little more trust and belief in themselves. And I think you saw in the second half the team that we want to be, where we want to go and consistently be, making the opponent uncomfortable, maintaining possession, but playing at a speed and creating opportunities that the fans get excited by, that I'm excited by. That's the goal.
Yeah, so specifically the second half, I thought the first 15 minutes, some people said it was slow. I thought the team looked very lively. The press was very effective, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Legion had their chances via the press and just didn't work out. There was a moment where Damas stole the ball away from I think it was Cedinho or Carlos Herrera for Detroit City, and just stole the ball away from him and put it in a cross. Danny Trejo couldn't quite do anything with it, but completely took playing it out from the back away from Detroit. The press was very effective. I thought that they looked very lively in the first, I would even say 30 minutes, up until the water break. Until the water break, I thought it was all Legion, but apparently other people, including Coach Briggs, saw it differently. That's why I'm an idiot and he's a coach. The second half, there's this concept called pitch tilt. And it's a pretty simple concept. It's another way of thinking of possession, right? Where if you were to really think about possession and like trying to think about how exactly I want to describe this, we always hear about this team had 80% of the ball, right? I know that's an extreme example, but let's say they had 80% of the ball. but they were just passing around their back line the entire time. They were just going from center back to right back to center back to center back to left back to goalkeeper to center back to left back to switch it to the right back, go to the CDM who passes it back to the goalkeeper. And they do that for the entire match. The pitch tilt is the other team was not in danger, right? So this concept of pitch tilt is really, is your possession meaningful? Is a layman's term. Some coaches may get mad at me, but that's layman's terms for you. In the second half, it felt like the ball was stuck in the Detroit City half, meaning it was a pretty heavy pitch tilt into Birmingham's favor. This wasn't meaningless possession that Legion was just fanning about, just pass it, pass it, pass it, pass it, pass it, pass it. They were locking Detroit City in, and they were able to just really go at them. And a lot of that comes down to the belief, right? Where Coach Briggs just said, convince them to believe in themselves. Well, they could have had a real moment of not believing themselves after conceding 1 minute into the second half. Alex Villanueva gets on the wrong side of Roof, and it's a nice finish. Let's not get it twisted. It is a wonderful finish by Villanueva. But after that, the Legion responded. Like, boy, did they respond. And did it lead to a ton of chances? Yeah. There was a penalty shout on Trey Garthen that wasn't called. There was in my humble opinion, a pretty clear goal by Enzo Martinez where he uses his body to win the ball. He doesn't foul. He just gets his body in the way in a legal way, but it was called a foul. No goal, doesn't matter. And then you also have on the first half what could have been I believe it was on Damas, a shove in the back, no penalty shout. This team could have not believed in themselves, but immediately after conceding, we saw the pitch tilt go. We saw Legion show some fight, and it was a great second half. If we can get Legion from 50 minutes to 90 minutes of this half be the Legion of always, this is a really good team. Let's keep listening.
Yeah, I think
if you couldn't hear the question, basically Detroit City is an extremely direct team, and I was just kind of asking how you prepared the squad.
It's about analyzing their opponents. I think they're very direct for a reason, because the movement of the front three allows them to be direct because they're constantly interchanging. Two are going deep, one's going in behind, two are in behind, one's showing to feet. So that allows them to be vertical, and the players they have up there, like Smith scored 7 goals, I believe, for a reason. He's a good player at this level, and Danny's doing a fantastic job with that group.
Yeah, he mentions his former co-worker, former assistant coach, Danny Dicchio. I mean, yeah, Detroit City is a very direct team, and you saw that's how it worked with Villanueva, gets his goal, very direct. We did a pretty good job of shutting down them, where Darren Smith, who has just been on fire, doesn't do anything really in this match. Not really contributing. Legion shut down that directness, really the first team this year to do so. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, like we played together years ago at West Brom. Obviously kept in touch, and he was my assistant in Sacramento for 2 years. Very good, very good coach, very good person. But to prepare, he obviously, like you say, he knows who I am, and I know who he is, and you just have to focus on the tendencies of his team. So it's not so much Danny, it's what does his team do, and then how can I prepare my team to exploit some of the weaknesses that you see.
Yeah. So by the way, he mentions Dan Dicchio, someone who he's been around for a very long time, someone who he has been around since his West Brom days, and just how do you prepare for someone who knows you as well as he does? And it's really just knowing what his teams do. You're not really kind of trying to outthink another manager. You're just trying to figure out his team, because the moment you start analyzing the other team or the other guy. So, yeah. That's kind of where he was getting with that. So that was asking about Lasso and his joining of the club, what he thought of joining of the club, what he saw out of Tulsa, out of a player who kind of fell out of favor and what he saw from the performance today. Let's listen to the answer.
I'll start with his performance today. I thought he was excellent. He arrived on late Wednesday night. Had 3 sessions with us, I believe, but they weren't really sessions because the team had played Wednesday night, so it's more recovery. I thought he was brilliant today. I thought he added a physical presence. I thought he won aerial duels, and then in the second half, you started to see some of his quality on the ball as well. For me, Edwin's a top midfield player in this league, and he has a profile that I felt the team needed, and I think you saw that today. The reason he's here because he played against me last year twice for Sacramento and he dominated the game. He ran the whole game. So fortunate to have him, and I think he'll make players around him better.
Fascinating answer. So I kind of asked the question of what's the difference between Lasso and Reku? Because if you look at their profile, how they're built, they look like the same guy. Because he mentions that the profile is what he was going after. The profile of a Lasso is what he was after. And if you're really just thinking about this of size and kind of position they play, we kind of already had a guy like that. The answer was interesting.
Two very similar profiles. I think Timmy's a young player who's learning the game. Edwin's played at the highest level. It's two very different things. He's played consistently at the highest level. Timmy's still got to get there. Now, Timmy needs opportunity to develop and play and get those minutes, so maybe he can play at the highest level. But Edwin showed that he can do it at the top level and consistently at this level.
And I want to talk about this answer because if this doesn't tell you that this is a win now team, I don't know what else will. This is a guy that we can say we have the answer here in Tamir Reku. Let's just go with him, see if he develops, we'll move it on and see if this gives us the answer we want. No. They went out and got a guy of the same profile, the same idea. And they said, we want the proven guy to win now. I know it's a defensive midfielder, and most people don't see defensive midfielders as the win now move. But if this doesn't tell you where Briggs' head is at, if this doesn't tell you where the ownership's head's at, if this doesn't tell you where Jay Heap's head is at, I don't know what else will. We have a player of a very similar profile in Tamir Reku. And he is the profile of player that we thought could fix this team. Let's go out and get the player who's done at the highest level. Yeah, we have the answer here, but what if the answer can happen immediately? Let's not wait for another 2 months for him to catch up to speed. Let's get the guy now. I think that's fascinating. And he doesn't disparage Reku, right? He doesn't say that he sucks or that he's not ready to play. He says that he's a talented player that can play at the next level, at the highest level. And maybe being around a guy like Lasso is someone he can learn from. So that could be interesting of itself. I thought that answer told me a lot about the headspace of Briggs and this front office.
A little bit, yeah.
So the question was asking Mark Briggs about his yellow card and if that was to kind of fire up the squad.
I think as a coach, I'm a big believer in the energy that I bring transmits to the players. Now you've got the way I coach, you walk a fine line. You walk a fine line because you don't want to go too far one way and the players lose confidence. But if you can walk that line and stay on the trapeze, so to speak, give them confidence, give them moments of well done, but also teaching moments. I think that's the way. I think the energy is so important for the group.
Yeah, very interesting answer kind of going on.
Yeah, I think, look, the referee.
This was asking about the refereeing decisions and the lack of 2 penalty calls and just general vibe of the day.
Have a really difficult job. I'm not saying that, and we're going to have moments where I guess some go for you, some go against you. So over the course of the season, you'd like to think that it evens itself out. But I gotta be careful what I say. But for me, today there was two decisions that were game-changing moments that were very wrong. I have to stand in front of you guys and answer these questions. I'd love one day for referees to be able to stand in front of you guys and answer the same questions.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this. Um, the two decisions being the penalty shouts, I do believe. He gets his yellow card on a throw in that should have been a throw in for Legion, ends up going towards Detroit City. I doubt that's what he's talking about. It's two penalty shouts. The one on Seba Tregarthen, where he gets kicked in the stomach in the box. I don't know how you missed that, to be honest. The push in the back from Damas, depending on the angle the ref was at, I could see how maybe he thought it was shoulder to shoulder. I'm not really going to get into semantics of it. However, there was a comment made, not by Briggs. This was by the media pool that was in there before Briggs got in there, or maybe it was after, one of the two. And it was, if there was VAR, that would have been sorted. And this is kind of where I fall on the referee's decision. If we are saying if we had VAR, I immediately just don't really care anymore. And I'm not saying that to be mean to the person that said that. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, if I am relying on VAR to settle if this was a penalty or not in a league without VAR, then I immediately think that the call is controversial enough to give the benefit of the doubt. Can I still be mad about it? Yes. Absolutely. I can definitely be mad about it. I'm a little frustrated about it myself. However, if we are at the point of saying if there was VAR, that is where I am willing to say maybe it's not as clear cut as I thought. Now, I'm also going to slightly push back on something that Briggs said, and that is he wishes that the refs could have to answer questions to the reporters. I love the sentiment, and I do think it creates this sense of accountability. There are pool reporters. Like, if I'm pretty sure if after the match I wanted to send a question in, I would have to write it down. It would be written down, send it on the way. They respond to it. I can't be in there, but somebody would get the answer. Essentially, it can't be on camera. That's all because of the union. That's my understanding. The thing with the having the referees in front of the microphone is that there is no, hey, you did a great job today, proud of you. It's always going to be asking why you did this wrong. Why did you call this wrong? Why did you see this wrong? And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's a good place to be. I think that leads to a lot more toxicity towards referees. And we're already seeing ref shortages anyway. I understand what Briggs is saying, and if we were in a fair world, that would just sit there and be like, "Ref, you made the right call on the field on that. Let's call it handball. That handball, you nailed it. What did you see to make you so confident?" And the ref would just be like, "I saw it hit his hand." No one's going to ask the question. It's like, "Why did you miss this?" I think that ends up being kind of a toxic thing that I don't think that's the right thing for the game. But I'm just kind of nitpicking a little too much.
Like, what is specifically slow?
Okay, so I specifically asked what the slowness meant because that's where my brain was at. Like, is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Like, define pace because the that is something that he has been using a lot, and I feel like it's important for fans to know whenever they say the team was slow, specifically what Mark Briggs it means by that.
So when I talk about that, it's not necessarily someone's speed. I talk about the speed of which the ball moves. And in order for the ball to have good speed and the ball move crisply, you need to be quick up here. You need to be tuned in. You need to be focused. I felt on Wednesday night we wasn't tuned in. We didn't warm up properly. There wasn't a good standard of warm up, which resulted in a poor start to the game, which resulted in us never really getting going. Today, the warm up was very good. The focus was there, and you saw a performance that built on what we did in Tampa. And that's what I talk about when I say speed. It's more the speed of the ball.
Again, talk about standards here. And this is nothing for me saying anything disparaging to Tommy or Eric. That's not what I'm saying. I'm sure these things were mentioned in training. Hey, you warmed up like crap last week, right? I'm sure that stuff happened, but I just think it's fascinating that that's the standard we're at. This is the standard that Briggs is publicly holding them accountable for. There is something to be said. He mentions it himself in the way he coaches that, you don't want to drag somebody down, but I think there was a certain type of like, hey, the standard of warm up wasn't good, and that's why we didn't perform well, right? The standard wasn't there, so the standard wasn't there. Publicly holding them accountable, I think is fascinating. And I think that seeing it transition from the warm up was better versus Detroit, so they played better. Mind blown. It seems like such an easy concept, but clearly that intensity that he's talked about, he wants them to be intense, nasty defenders who just play so well. The standard starts in the warm up. Fascinating stuff.
It's what we have to do. It's part of the game. It's look, you're out there. It's the Gladiators arena. When you go out there and you're in the White Lions, that's the arena, and you have to compete. And I said to them before the game, there's 3 C's that I want to see. I want to see us communicate. I want to see us be compact, but I want to see us compete. And I thought today the guys did that. And when you compete, and when you battle, and when you show the right mindset and attitude, you start to get the rub of the green. You start to get decisions go your way, or if you don't perform at your best, you still might get a result. And so, this is part of a process with a group and part of a development stage. We want results straight away. Don't get me wrong. We want to win, but there's also a lot of work for us to do.
What do you put that down to? Like, how do you fix that?
I think it's the mindset. It's what I spoke about Wednesday night. When you're a professional athlete, you can't just turn it on and off. Players are too good. There's too much talent, and at the moment, we still have moments on and off. We have to get to a point where we're consistently on between our ears. Yeah, consistently on. And that's part of a process. That's part of standards. That's part of being held accountable. That's part of where we want to take the club.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of skipped over one of the questions because I just wanted to build into this one. Again, I talked about standards. We had the 3 C's, right? You had the communication, compact, and commitment, right? You are also hearing about standards. And I think that this is just as much for fans as it is players, right? For fans, you want to have a vision as well. What does this club want from me? What do I want from the club? It's all one thing. He's not just talking about players here. You not being able to switch it on and off, right? That being engaged 100% of the time, right? You have to be engaged for 3 hours today, 3 straight hours of commitment. And I also think that goes to fans as well, right? And I'm not saying like the people watching in the grandstands need to be chanting, clapping, all that kind of stuff, but be invested in the match because there are good moments that happen in this match. And we always get wowed by like Tyler Pasher had an amazing few dribbles that just kind of worked through some space that got some pops out of the crowd. Obviously, Puente Doce and Magic City Brigade were just drumming and having fun the entire time. But being invested in all 3 hours that you're there, being invested in everything. If everybody does their job, you're going to build something special. I think it's a fascinating thing to hear a coach say.
I thought in the second half we probably created 3 or 4 good opportunities. Ronaldo 1v1, the penalty on Enzo,
He meant
the actual
foul.
penalty, Sebastian. Well, call it what you like. But I thought Kobe came in and impacted that part of it, switching the ball to Preston creating things from the opposite side. Yeah. So I thought, like, in the second half, we got Tyler 1v1. We got into better areas, but yeah, I agree with you. We have to be better, and that's what I mean. In the second half, we pinned them in because our quality was better. In the first half, we got there and gave it away. So you never get a rhythm, and you end up making 30-yard, 40-yard transition runs defensively. Then when you win it again, you're tired, And in the second half, what you saw was our structure in the attacking half was very good. So we were able to move the ball because there's lots of options. But when we lost the ball, we're in positions to counter press and win it back, which resulted in us staying high.
Yeah, so a couple of things here, and this is kind of where I was thinking about, like, what is next? What is the next formation for us? Right now, I would say that you're going to see a back line of a Kavita, Thiago Suarez, Moses Mensah. Keep an eye on who's going to be playing right back. Is it going to be Turnbull? Is it going to be Roof? I think your next midfield that you're going to see versus the Miami FC is going to be Edwin Lasso, Kobe Hernandez Foster, and Enzo Martinez. And playing the right wing is going to be Pastor. Playing the left wing is going to be Trejo with Damas up top. I think it's unfortunate, but I think that's the best version of this team. I think that when you saw how he mentioned, like, Kobe coming on made a big deal. He also mentioned Preston, but I think that's kind of a super sub situation. And if you're going to have someone like a Seba Tregarthen be a super sub and make a difference the way he did, like he did in the first half, I think that's fascinating. I think that's great stuff. I think that's what you're going to be able to see be the next movement forward. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. And I think you need that.
That they have to go along because your press is so good.
Yeah, Ronaldo.
Yeah, so I mentioned Ronaldo and, like, his work rate off the ball. He didn't get a goal, but he earned some chances. He mentioned that the one-on-one the keeper saved, but he has some very impressive moments, especially in the press. I thought he was very impressive.
Ronaldo just has to keep going. I think there's a lot of little details that are being introduced to the guys that are new to them, so I've got to make sure that I'm patient with them and continue to hammer home the things that I want them to understand. But for me, Ronaldo, he's one of the top players in the league. He scored a few goals before I got here. And now we've got to get him, back on track scoring goals again. But he's going to consistently get opportunities to score if he shows the right mindset.
This week, because Fanwell was raving about his performance in training.
He's been excellent.
Okay, so I asked about Thiago Suarez, who was kind of loaned here and from New England, and I mentioned the fact that he's been predominantly playing right back for the club, including the last time that they played Detroit, that the Legion played Detroit City. Check out this answer.
In training, I developed Thiago. He came through the academy. I gave him his professional debut. He's not a right back. It's plain and simple. Yeah. He's a central defender. And I think you saw that he's a central defender today in his performance. But he's been excellent in training. He's been knocking on the door, and sometimes you might get opportunities through injury. You might get opportunities through a coach's decision. Tonight, Thiago got an opportunity to play. And I always say, when you get that opportunity, keep the shirt. Thiago's kept the shirt.
You guys earned the position.
It's great. It's amazing. Look, Raz is an exceptional talent. Thiago is an exceptional talent. We've got to make sure that they're learning, they're growing, they're competing. Who knows? One day it might be Fanny, and they play alongside one another. And that's how good they are. But we've just got to make sure we continue to develop them. We continue to work hard with them, but we continue to keep their feet on the ground.
Yeah, just super interesting stuff all around. And I kind of mentioned Rami Zamuda and how basically coach has two young center backs, and he speaks glowingly of both of them. One thing he said is Thiago kept the shirt. It sucks that Ramiz goes out with injury or whatever happened. I'm assuming it's injury. That wasn't explicitly stated. But, Famil Kavita talked about training and how well Thiago had been training. And we also hear from, Coach Briggs that he gave him his start, which is true. He started in the Sacramento Republic Academy. He's the one that gave him his start. Thiago was awesome in this match. And Briggs said it. He kept the shirt. Does it suck for Ramiz because he finds himself possibly out of the starting 11 because of an injury? Yeah, that's professional football. And Thiago shows that he can be that guy. In fact, there was a moment where Lasso comes into the squad and he just wasn't where he was supposed to be. He's brand new. Coach Briggs said, I think in this interview, where he had just gotten in on Wednesday night. Didn't even get a real training in because it was all recovery stuff. And so he didn't really know what to do, where to be. He's a smart player, but he doesn't know the ins and outs of the system. Thiago was getting into him. It was in the second half. I mean, Thiago was yelling at him. Like, you're here. This is where you need to go here. And he was like, whenever this happens, you got to drop back. There was some leadership out of the young man. And that was awesome. He won the shirt. That's going to be fascinating to see. And who did he win the shirt for? It is this Miami FC, the Miami FC. And hey, this is not your mama's Miami FC. Well, at least the last 2 years of Miami FC. Traditionally, they're actually a decent squad. But the Miami FC have been very good. Zarate is not going to be available for this match. He got a second card, so he's going to be out. But they usually go with this 4-4-2, and they are very interesting. Bill Hamid, yes, that one is their goalkeeper. Last time we saw Bill Hamid, it was 3-0 to the Legion when he was playing for Area Code FC in Memphis. In the back line, they have a Bolu Akinyode playing center back. Yes, the Bolu center back experiment lives on. Jonathan Ricketts, who is a borderline all USL talent, is their right back right now. Mateus Romero has been awesome. Diego Mercado has been awesome. Francisco Bonifigolo, he has been one of the best goal scorers that this league has to offer this year. Sebastian Blanco has been incredible as well. Lucas Milano has been incredible. This team has got a pretty big turnover. They had to make a lot of changes since arguably the worst team in league history. And they take down Loudoun United last week. Loudoun United, who, yes, they beat Birmingham, but are arguably top 2-3 team in the league. They dispatched of them. And it was out of before we would see them sit pretty deep and they would just kind of hold on possession and just try to hit you on the counterattack. And they kind of did that against Loudoun. They held on to the ball. They did what they had to do. They were able to break away when they needed to. In terms of passes, they're not going to ticky-tackle you apart. They're going to be fairly direct. They're going to go long. They're going to be accurate with their passes. When they're in your half, they're going to create chances. When they go up the wings, because they will, they are going to put in crosses. You're going to see them take shots. They're not afraid to put them on target because eventually they're going to go inside, right? They are accurate. They get their chances inside the box. They do it constantly. In defense, they've been pretty stingy. They're aggressive in tackles. They're quick to clear it away. They are a just run team. Call them disciplined, maybe not so much. But, I mean, when you look at Ricketts, Cardona, Knudsen, Romero, Velasquez, Diego Mercado, Milano, Bonifigolo, Blanco, this is a good team. And they didn't even start Celeste, who has been one of their better players this year as well. This is going to be a fascinating matchup because coming into the season, you say that should be the match we win. This is a team that could find themselves fighting for a home playoff spot. That's how good the Miami FC team is. Also, they're going to be debuting a new kit, so that's interesting. Also, and this needs to be known, they're playing at Pitbull Stadium, like the Mr. Worldwide. I just kind of love that. So Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide, he is like the person that bought the stadium. So Ricardo Silva not having the naming rights on the stadium anymore. He's still with the club though. But there you have that. I think it's going to be interesting. I think that you're going to see a very fascinating Miami team. I think this Legion team can break them down because we even saw Abukora for Loudon get his chances. Florian Velo, who used to play there, got his chances. Zach Ryan was a little bit lackluster in this match. Wesley Leggett also a little bit lackluster, but like Abdelatif Abukora had his moments. And is he the best player in the league right now? Maybe. Helps when you have that. But guys like Damas, guys like Trejo, guys like Pasher can break down a team like this. Do I think that this is a game that Legion can win? Absolutely. Is this a match they should win? If you were to go name for name, you would say yes. But this is a good Miami team. Would I be frustrated by another draw? Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, would a draw be the worst case scenario here against Miami? No, not really. I think that when you're looking at this Miami team, a draw is not the worst outcome. You want to win. And I'm not going to sit there and be like, if we don't win, get Briggs out too. They're horrible. Sell everybody. Get as much money as you can because the owners need to pull out of this club and make their money. I'm not going to do all that. That's stupid, right? But this is a thing where I think that you are going to see a Legion team that's going to be more motivated. They're going to come out with more fire. They're going to have more want to just wreck somebody, right? I mean, Coach mentioned he wants them to be nasty in defense. He wants to be an aggressive, intense team. This is your chance to do that against a team has been shocking a lot of clubs. Is a point a good result? Yes. Will Briggs be happy with walking away with a point? Absolutely not. I don't think anybody would be happy walking away with a point. If I am being purely objective, I think there's a world where Miami wins this match because they are that good of a squad. But this is also the time that you need to start picking up points because there is no bad team in the USL anymore. There's just straight up not. The worst team in the league, Hartford. What happened when we played Hartford? We lost. Like, there is no bad team in the USL anymore. Miami's just another one of those squads that they're not bad. They're actually really good. You got to beat good teams to win championships. That starts today. Thank you all so much for listening. Till next time, guys.